Man to man, combat hand to hand, hands locked, ready for the last stand, elbow drops, kicks fade bang. If I can make you levitate, better settle mate, lights out, knocked out by the heavyweight.
Hi, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Today with Cam Rowston, or Cam Van Dam, a fellow Sydney signer that's defected over to New Zealand. How are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Hey, it's normally the Kiwis that defect to Australia, but you've gone in reverse and taken the trip over there, man.
I have. I'm one of the few who've done it. There's one more who trains at our gym as well, Adam from Tasmania.
Adam from Tasmania.
First and I was the first and he was the second.
Yeah, man, it makes sense, right? I'm sure that there must be a lot of people that travel to CKB to, train obviously with their success, right? And I think it'll just keep going that way, right?
Yeah. There's like heaps of people from all around New Zealand that travel to come to Auckland. And that's just been in the past 2 years. So I imagine when like travel opens up again, there'll be a lot of Aussies coming over, maybe even like people from Asia and possibly America. Yeah,
man. Hey, I went over there for a look one day, like ages ago. I actually went down to watch Dan Hooker train. And it was funny because I was listening to an interview of yours and it was exactly the same as what you're saying. You go in to watch, and I went in to watch that, and then I wanted to do a little bit of training, but it was at the same time as a sparring class. And it was the same as you said, like you walk in, there was like it must have been 50 people. I think you said 80 people when you said you walked in and watched the sparring class, but it was just amazing, the depth of people, but not only the people, the talent of the people that were actually training, right? It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Any given day, you're going to have like a guy on the mat who'll whoop your ass easily, whether you're just there to grapple, you like jump into sparring with like the kickboxing team or just like the boxing team. There's someone there who's going to, you're not the king of the jungle. That's for sure. Any day, there's always someone better. Yeah,
man. And the thing is, like when you look at the overall class, guys like Dan Hooker and Israel were in the middle of this big group of people, and they don't necessarily stand out to be, look at these guys compared to the rest, because like you said, the depth of talent is there that don't stand out immediately,
Yeah, like it's just any given day, like someone's gonna, you can't be the best all the time. Even if you're, I don't know, if you're the world champion coming in, you could have an off day and you're just going to get towed up by someone who people have never heard of before.
Actually, that's what Dan said something the other day. You can't come in the gym and think just because you're like a high level fighter, you can like take it easy with an amateur. Like some of the amateur guys will kick your ass as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We got a good amateur team coming up. There's probably like 5 or 6 of them who are coming through who train just as much as the professionals, and they're ones to watch out for. I think like 4 or 5 years, they'll be quite good.
That's it, man. Now, obviously 2020, 2022 started off in a good way for you with your King in the Ring win, man, title win. Pretty good showing for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's ideal. It's the best way, I guess, you could start a year. A little bit of money in the pocket, nice gold belt, 3 fights in one night. Yeah, so I'm happy with that start.
Yeah, man, a nice 10K in the bank. It's not bad. I saw your post. You kind of summed it up as an 8-month camp, 4 reschedules, 1 night, 3 fights, man. Sounds like a difficult sort of challenge in those few words.
Yeah, it was just kind of a lot that just accumulated in one night. So all that time, so much waiting, so much like, is it going to happen? Oh, it's not going to happen. It's pushed back. And then just like, it all just came together nicely, I think.
Man, how do you find that? Like you fought stand-up, you fought your MMA before as well. How do you find the difference between fighting in a tournament where you have those 3 fights? Is that like a really daunting task for you?
Yeah, I try not to think about it like it's like 3 fights in one night. Obviously, you're going in there to win, and if you're there to win, you're going to have to do 3 fights in one night, but you just take it 1 fight at a time. So I think as long as you put the effort in and training to where you can go for 3 fights, like it's not that daunting because you've got all that training to back yourself up.
Yeah, man, pretty full on though. One thing I'm interested in is, like it's just trying to pull in the grips in my head and thinking about, when you fight, like I fought stand up and it's 1 fight. I've never fought a tournament. And then you fight BJJ, or you compete in BJJ, you have like several competitions. And after you've done the first one, it kind of takes some nerves off the next one. Of course, you're more fatigued and potentially more injuries, especially for you guys doing stand-up. But you feel a little bit more relaxed in the second fight. Do you feel that way? Like you've dropped the nerves a little bit more and it's just like going to business?
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Like that first fight, I'm a little bit of a slow starter anyway in fights. So just kind of getting that first one out of the way, it was just like, yeah, it was a lot better. The body was fully warm. Like the legs warm. They had heaps of blood in them, so I could kick, I could punch, and then kind of get your eye in as well. You can get the time in, even though it's a different opponent, but you're sharp. You still got that you're on edge, which is good.
And you fought first. You fought Nathan, and then Nathan Matafeo, and then Connor Woodman, followed by Robert Ngari Dean. You said the hardest match for you was Connor. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh my God, he's an animal. His fight name's a wild man. He is wild, man. He came out with some pretty unorthodox techniques.
He looks a bit like a Viking, right?
Yeah. He's just like, I don't know what it is, but you punch him and he's happy to get punched. He's like, yeah, and it's like his power bar's charging up the more he gets hit, and then something's gonna come. You just keep jabbing him, and like, well, his power bar's charging up. He's gonna do something. Yeah, but he was probably the toughest one that I fought that night.
Yeah. So then what you've done is you've got, okay, let's take the toughest one and let's rematch him in cage Muay Thai. Let's drop the size of the gloves a bit so he can do a bit more damage, and let's get it on again.
Yeah. I was meant to fight Pane, the guy that he fought in the quarters. I was going to fight Pane in MMA, but he injured Pane, so he has to take his place. But we're going to do it in Muay Thai rules instead. So that seems about right. You injure the guy, you got to step in for him.
Pane, just to remind me, Pane's an MMA fighter as well, right? He fights stand-up primarily, but he's also an MMA guy. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that fight before. That's a shame, man, because it would have been good to turn around and then go back to MMA again rather than, a stand-up fight, yeah?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it is what it is. But I think maybe later on down the line, if Pane's feeling it, we can set it up again.
Yeah. And how's it going, man? Obviously, there's been a few shows starting to open up in Australia now. You've got a big fight coming up, a few fights coming up in March, I think, in Australia. Is there a chance you'll be popping over there soon for a fight?
Oh, I'm not sure, because the way the borders are in New Zealand, it's quite tight. So I just want to be 100% certain I can get back in if I leave the country. That's the only problem. But I would love to get over to Australia whenever I can and get an MMA fight. I'm sure
half your team's over there at the moment. It's all right. You can just join in with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The coaches are over there. They don't need to fly the coaches over. They can just, yeah.
That's it. I saw pictures down in Wollongong with Alex Volkanovski's team, right, and Joe's team with a lot of the big boys. They probably be missing a couple of those fellas, right? That'd be good for your training, yeah.
Oh yeah. They're real good. They're handy to have. Like having Carlos was real handy for the King in the Ring, because he's won it twice. Having Blood Diamond was real handy as well. He's won it 3 times, and they give you all the looks you need. Any look you need, southpaw, orthodox, boxer heavy, kicker heavy, just anything you need, they'll give it to you for sparring.
That's awesome.
But there's still plenty of guys on the mat I can train with at the moment. Like I still get really, really good work in.
Who's your key guys over there? Is Doug the main one that helps you guys because you're doing a lot of stand up? Just wondering if you drift towards him more, or it's other coaches.
Yeah. Doug's helped me for this next one, and Mark Timms as well. He's taken on the role as one of the striking. I don't know if he call himself a striking coach. A lot of us look up to him as a striking coach just because he's so experienced and he's so knowledgeable. So him and Doug are helping out the guys while Eugene and Mike are away. They've stepped in and they've filled the role quite well, which is nice.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hey, I was trying to double check your record, and on that Tapology site it says your MMA record is 9 fights, 7 wins, 2 losses, but then a couple of others have it a little bit different. Is that one correct?
Yeah, the Tapology one's the right one. Yeah, there's a few weird ones there that have me at 5'10" or something. I'm like, 5'10".
Someone's gonna
6'4".
Someone's gonna pick a fight with you soon, thinking they're gonna fight with a short guy.
Yeah.
Hey, I was looking at a couple of your fights. I saw your fight with Issy. Obviously, not one that you'd be too happy with, but man, you almost had him there too. Like you had him deep in a triangle, man. What happened to the triangle there? Just his
That
neck's too
was-
strong or something.
Yeah, there is no neck. It's not the neck's too strong. There is no neck. No, that was just one of those fights where kind of didn't really know like what kind of fighter I was. Was I a stand-up guy? Was I a grappler? Was I an MMA fighter? And like the gym I was training at the time, God bless them, I love them. It was it just didn't have the resources available or the knowledge available to kind of get me to where I wanted to get to. Like, here's a gym I started with, but I love them all, but I just needed a little bit of a change. So I just think I went in there a little bit undercooked. Yeah.
Look at it, man. I've seen other fights of yours, but I can't remember exactly who you're fighting. But in the other fights, you're a bit more patient. That one, you didn't seem very patient. You were just like charging into range and rushing. Like even the sub, you were rushing, right? Like you weren't as relaxed as you seem to be now, not as composed. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew something had to change after that fight. And, had to mix it up. The training was a little bit all over the place and stuff. And yeah. And Izzy's a really good fighter as well. So it was a bad, all the bad things coming together. Yeah.
Now I saw on your record that you'd also fought Jaden. I don't know how to say his name, Anaud or something. I'm actually familiar with his coach, Mark Pease from up at Strikeforce in Burleigh Heads, Queensland, Australia. I didn't even know that he fought in MMA. So how was that fight, man? I couldn't find it anywhere.
That was on, when was that? That was the end of 2019. That was like the week before Christmas. That was on a show actually in North Sydney. So that was good. It was in my hometown. So I got like friends and stuff to come and watch. But I think we got that matchup like 3 weeks before the fight, 2 or 3 weeks before the fight. But he was game. He came in, he was throwing so hard at me in that second round. He was smashed my body with some kicks, and I just knew I just had to try and close the distance so I wouldn't get my ribs smashed up and take him down. But he was really good on the ground as well. Like I'd try and pass his guard, he'd put me back in guard, I'd hit him a little bit, and then he would move and like get space and try to stand up. And he was tall as well. That was the first time I fought someone who was probably just a little bit shorter than me.
Man, that's interesting. I didn't know he had a ground game at all. I'll have to ask a bit more about that one day. It's cool.
Now, man, very good. Yeah.
I had a bit of a listen to a few podcasts of yours, so I started to look into your beginnings. But I'm wondering, you didn't say in it why you actually started training. You talked a bit about where you started training, but I didn't hear you say like why you started to train martial arts.
Ooh, why did I start? Well, the gym that I started at, Training Grounds, it was just like, it was local to me, and I'd always kind of wanted to get into like combat sports, or at least train it, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or boxing. But my mom never wanted to sign the waiver. I think I was like 15 or 16. I was like, Mom, I want to go to the PCYC and do like the boxing there and like start sparring and stuff. She's like, get the fuck out of here. She's like, no chance. And so I was like, oh, okay. When I'm 18, I'll just like sign up and go and do it myself. And then I think that gym opened up like a few months before I turned 18. I just went in there and just took one of the forms and filled it out. I think I lied about my age. and then I got to look at it though, but I just went in and started training, and yeah, that was it. But mostly the reason I wanted to like get into combat sports is just like a little bit of self-confidence and have a little bit of like self-assurance. Young, I'm a young guy, and I go out when I'm like 18, 19. I've seen a few of my friends get punched and stuff, and I get into fights and you're like, ooh, like I want to make sure that if anything happens like that, I can kind of defend myself. So yeah, that was probably the main reason I started.
Yeah, man. And as you mentioned, you were at Training Grounds in Sydney, Crow's Nest, part of North Sydney. I also saw on one of those weird things that had you linked with VT1, which is those Reznikov brothers, right? Were you were trained there at all or no?
Yeah, I did. I started training with the Reznikov brothers when, what year? Probably the start of 2015. I got invited to go along to that gym by a guy who was training there already, Alex Cariotti, and Richie Walsh was there at the time. And I think Richie had just finished the Ultimate Fighter. He just finished the Canada-Australia one where his coach was Carl Noak. And I was like, oh, sweet, I get to train with a UFC fighter. And then like, Richie would beat me up pretty much every day. And I kept coming back. And then I realized, oh, Richie's kind of like me. Like we grew up around the same area. Like there's not much. He's obviously an athletic freak. Like if you ever met him, the dude's got like a 10-pack and he just lives off like candy and chocolate. But I was just like, well, fuck, if he can do it, why can't I do it? So then I just kept hanging out there and kept training with them in between training grounds and VT1, and kind of like just wasn't like the most technical training. Like I learned a lot of stuff off them, but it was good, hard, like just good, hard training, like iron beating iron. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And then, so while you're with them, that was when you're with training grounds when you kicked off with did you start off with some stand up and then move straight into MMA, right? Is that how it worked with your competition?
Yeah, I was mostly training everything at the same time. Like when I started at training grounds, I basically just jumped into all the classes within the first week and was training everything. My first fight I had was, I think it was like a Mod Thai fight. And then like a month later, I had an MMA fight.
And what do you prefer, man? Obviously, you're switching between both. What do you prefer, like in yourself? What do you like to fight?
Oh, I definitely love doing the MMA a lot more. It's it just feels more rewarding afterwards. I feel like there's a lot more effort that goes into it mentally and physically with the training. I feel like the training loads a lot more, and like you get a win and it's like, fuck, I put a lot of effort into this training camp. It feels a lot sweeter. And obviously the goal is to get into the UFC and fight in the UFC. So I truly believe that MMA, I prefer that a lot more than like kickboxing.
Yeah, man, it's a lot more versatile. But like you said, your schedule must be so hectic trying to fit in all the skills, right? Like get all the skills together. Even obviously it's one skill at the end of the day, but there are so many parts together, right? And you're training different sessions, I imagine, from BJJ to wrestling to stand up. Very busy man now.
Yeah. It's when outside of camp, you just try to like upskill and learn as much as you can. And as you know, like jiu-jitsu is endless. There's so many techniques. So always on the mat. Just it's not hard training, but just always constantly there trying to learn. Even in the stand-up, trying to learn. So it is quite a big load when you're training for an MMA fight.
Yeah, man. And in 2018, you decided to switch over to CKB, just to, upskill after you felt you needed a change. I see pictures of you with all those legends, man. Kai, Blood, Izzy, Brad, Carlos, Hangman. You mentioned Hangman's taught you some skills. Can you talk about like how it is training with this sort of level of guys and this group of guys?
Oh, it's pretty intimidating at first when you walk in. Like, you see the first time you've seen these guys is usually like them just bashing someone on TV or them like on Sky Sports or like Fox Sports or something. So it was quite intimidating going in there first, but then, you start to train with them a little bit more. You get your little shots in on them. They obviously, tallying me up the first few times, but after a while, I got a little bit more comfortable there. And I think they realized that I was sticking around. I wasn't going anywhere. And they got a little bit more comfortable with me. And then I just feel like, they just kind of accepted me as part of the team. So it was quite good. After a while, I just knew I had to stick it out. And then, they just started trying to teach me some more stuff and show me the ropes a little bit more. So I thought that was quite good. But initially, just very intimidating.
When you first came in, do you feel like welcomed immediately, or is it some sort of thing you need to earn? Like, a lot of the gyms, they have people come and go like every week, right? So they don't initially give everything and even be that friendly straight away. Like it takes time to earn trust and earn the real teaching. Is it like that there?
Yeah, it's a very closed group. Like no one's intentionally trying to be an asshole. But when I first got there, everyone was super nice, and I got there very friendly, especially the coaches like Eugene and Doug. But on the mats, when it came time to sparring or it came time to like live rolling, they want to test me. They want to see what I'm all about. A lot of the high level guys wanted to see if they kind of see if it's a way for them to see if you're serious about it and whether or not they should put time into helping you get better, which is going to make you a better training partner for them later on down the line. So I think that's what like the screening process kind of is at the gym.
Yeah, and they'd be screening you to see if your skills are up to scratch to help them as well, right? I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. There was, I'm not going to say who it was, but man, that first day I went to sparring there, I got rocked so hard. Oh, fucking hell. This guy is an asshole. Like he actually wants to hurt me. So I leave the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's got to be some of those guys around each gym, I'd imagine.
But he was, after that spar though, he was like the first person to give me advice and kind of like show me the ropes at the gym and like try to help upskill me so I wouldn't get beat up as much in sparring.
That's awesome, man. Have you ever been attacked by Doug? I see videos of him humping everyone around the gym.
I can't confirm or deny that. I don't want to get him in trouble.
I might have to go back again. I might have to go back and have a review of one of those videos.
Right.
Hey, man, just looking at that group, obviously Eugene Behrman and kind of some of the guys before him, like Lolo Hemuli and that, are very cerebral sort of guys, man, very thinking. You know, you can see they think a lot and they really, you know, apply, you know, a thinking man's game. Could you talk a bit about that system and like how it feels to be training there compared to where you've trained before?
Yeah, cerebral is actually a really good word. I've used that word myself to describe them a lot when people have asked me like what's it like to train with them. But to be honest, like I would actually say it's quite similar to my first coach, Scott Ireland, who I learned from in training grounds. He was very big on like minimizing damage and like not getting hit as much. So he kind of like I love Scott, but he's not as good as or like as cerebral as coaches Eugene and Lolo. Like he'll be the first to admit it himself, but he kind of like laid a foundation down for me to be able to absorb knowledge like that and like take it on and like learn techniques to that. So I felt like I was able to fit in quite well into the system that Eugene and Doug had like laid out already. And
also I heard you saying that to learn the system, it's not something that you can just go in and like, you know, spend a fight camp at CKB and expect to be able to, you know, impart that into your game, that you need to be there, you know, every day training that it takes a long time to really get that, you know, really integrate their sort of system into your game. Could you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's one thing I've told a few people from Australia who have asked me, what's it like over there? Like they say like, oh, I'm thinking of coming over for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks to do a training camp. And that's the first thing I say to them is you'll get fit in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like you'll get some good sparring in, but I just don't think you're not going to be the style bender after 8 weeks. That's for sure. Yeah. It's,
I think it takes a little bit longer than that.
Yeah. It takes a little bit longer than that. It's, yeah. So it's just like, it takes years and years and years to do. Yeah. So that system that Eugene and Doug have developed, I think is just one that they're still developing as well. So it's like they come back after maybe Dan's fights or Izzy's fights or like Brad's fights and like, oh, so-and-so did this. We didn't know that. And here's how we're going to fix it now. So if this ever comes up again later on in someone else's fight, just apply the technique like this. So the system is like always changing, always evolving, like always adapting.
Yeah, man. The other day talking to Colby, like at the moment with those guys over there, I just asked him how it's going with them and he said it's great. Like he was sparring with Volk and then after the round, Eugene called him over. He's like, what the fuck's this about? And he's wandered over and Eugene's told him a few tips, like how to angle his punches and that, just to be able to land a little bit more. It's great for them to have that sort of knowledge over there to help out a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the best things I reckon is like when you kind of got your own style and then like Eugene or like another coach will just say, oh, just do this and tweak this up. Not like he's not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's just kind of like polishing it.
Yeah, man. Hey, on that, like talking about styles, it's pretty obvious when you see some of you guys that are coming out of there, you know, like Carlos and you and Izzy, there's some very obvious similarities between the way that you guys start your fighting when you're standing, especially. Is that something that's particular to CKB or it's something that you guys are just kind of adapting to and kind of maybe evolving off each other? Because you can see the similarities. I don't know if you must know what I mean, yeah?
Ooh, I would say it's like monkey see, monkey do. I look at like what works for Carlos and Izzy, and I'm like, I'm like pretty similar proportion to them. Let's see if that works for me. And I just kind of like just use what's useful and reject what's useless, as Bruce Lee said. And then like you kind of have that, and then you go on some pads with Eugene or Doug, and then they're like, no, don't do that, do it this way. And so monkey see, monkey do. Then you take it to the coach, and the coach is like tweaking it, and then they kind of perfect it for you. So yeah, it's definitely similarities in there for sure.
Yeah. And actually, when you look at some of the lighter guys, they don't have that striking similarity, right? Like when you look at Kai or Brad, they're a bit different style, right? They're stylistically. I guess Brad came to CKB with his pre-existing stand-up sort of skill set, right? And he would have been developing a bit more from there, but he would have already had a skill set that's a bit different, right? Or maybe it is like the proportion, like you said, that sort of style works for the taller, longer guys.
Yeah, I feel like it does. We all kind of like borrow techniques off each other and like looks off each other, but yeah, it seems to be a long man's game that that the stuff. Well, I don't really want to say it's my style, but like the looks and the moves that I've kind of adopted. I just see the tall, lanky guys at the gym. There's even other tall, lanky guys at the gym I look at as well, like guys like Navajo Sterling, and even Mark Timms is quite tall for his weight class, and I try to pick up their looks as well.
Yeah. No, great guys to be training with, man. Hey, what's the difference between some of these guys as coaches, like Doug Viney, Mike Angove, Eugene Behrman? What's some of the differences between them as coaches? Some of them must be very different, right? They seem like very different personalities, all of them. Yeah.
I've been asked this question before by some of my mates in Sydney, and the best way I could answer it is like, you ever played the game Battlefield? Like Battlefield 1, like, so you like pick a class, right? So you pick a class at the start, like when you revive. You can be like a sniper, you can be like a demolition man, you can be like an infantryman who's kind of got like the all-rounder. So I tell people that Doug is like the demolition man, heavy machine guns, gonna go in there, boom, 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 just knock people out, just guns blazing, just absolute madman. Like if you go and watch his fights, he's killing people in K1. If you go to Eugene Behrman, he's like your infantry man. His gun can go semi-automatic, or it can go automatic. So he can pot shot people, or he can kick down the door and like spray the place up. Like, he gives you a bit of everything. And then when you got Mike Angove is like the sharpshooter. He's just like so accurate with everything. It's all about details. It's all about finite parts. Like we have a joke where he's talks about like footwork, but he doesn't talk about footwork. Talks about toe work. He says, educate your toe. Make sure your toes facing the right way. I'm like, Mike, I can't even feel my toes. Like, how am I meant to turn my toes? So that's the best way I can describe it. It's just like each of them have, people will think they're all the same, but really they're very, very different to each other. And they all, if you learn from all of them, they all complement each other very, very well.
And they've worked together for a long time. Is it such that system you're talking about is acknowledged and known by all of them, and they're all working towards the same goal with a slightly different perspective, or some of them are disjointed?
Oh no, they definitely work together. They collaborate a lot, especially for the big fights coming up. They all go and watch film together and give their part and like what they think should happen and like their knowledge, and yeah, they really formulate good game plans, and they all work together. Yeah,
man. Hey, and jumping on being over there in New Zealand, it's obviously it's overseas, but it's not really overseas in a way, like, because it is like a similar culture in a way. You know, we can all communicate pretty well. You got some differences in the land and everything, but you know, it's similar. What are your thoughts on being able to later fight overseas or live overseas to train or anything like that? Like, have you got any plans of that? Obviously, if you want to fight overseas because you want to be in UFC, but any thought on that at all?
Oh, look, I think Auckland's a great city. New Zealand's a great country. I have to remind the people here that New Zealand was once a part of Australia up until 1880, I believe. And so it is very similar to Australia in a lot of ways. And I honestly don't feel like I need to move at all. Like as long as the gym keeps developing the way it is, like we've got the guys coming up underneath me and the guys above me, like I don't feel like there's anything else that I need really.
Yeah, true, man. It seems that way. Obviously, the success shows that, right? That you don't really need to be anywhere else. And let's see how you go with that. Hey, I mean, I saw a picture with you. Look, were you at Central Coast MMA? I saw your picture with Ross Pearson and Jamie Malaki. Were you actually with them training there, or was that somewhere else?
Oh, I think that was last year, maybe like May. I just went home to visit when the bubble was open temporarily. And yeah, I shot up there because I used to train with Gary Jones a lot back in probably like 2016 to 2018. I was like training with him almost daily for like 2 years, like Monday to Friday. But when I went back there, he told me that he was living up in the Central Coast and training out of there now, or coaching out of there, sorry. And so I went up there and saw him, but I haven't actually like been a member at the Central Coast MMA gym.
Yeah, man. No, I imagined you would have just visited there. I'm actually from the Central Coast originally, but I've been overseas for 15 years already. It's actually something you said in one of your interviews kind of rang true to me too about going back, and then there's gyms all around your area, right? Like when I left Australia, there was like next to nothing around my area. And then I go back and there's like an MMA show on that night. There'd been no MMA basically when I was there. Yeah. There was an MMA show in the area. There was like 2 BJJ gyms open. They were also teaching MMA. It's just crazy, man. Like the way things took off over the last pretty much decade. It's been a massive turn. Everyone's training something, right?
Yeah, it's huge. It's when I went back last year, I was just driving around the area. There was my BJJ. The gym I used to train at, Training Grounds, and then there was one more BJJ gym. I think it was like a Gracie Barra or something that was like in the same area. And now there's like 5 other gyms. It's crazy. Yeah, it's kind of like karate in the 80s. It's just like
yeah, it's true.
Exploded.
I didn't think of that. It's true. I saw something written on one of your comments. It said Battle Giraffe. Is that something someone's called you before?
That's it's like the unofficial nickname I've been given by who started. I think Brad Riddell started it. Started calling me the Giraffe, and then he called me the Battle Giraffe, and now it's taken on its own persona. Yeah, I'll show you this poster. I got given this poster by these girls that I train. I don't know if you can see that, but Sonny Brown actually made this up. He did the artwork for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it turned into a joke, and now it's like actually a thing with its own poster. It's going to have shirts as well soon. So
sick. Yeah. Actually, I spoke to one of my friends because one of my guys I trained a bit over here just at the amateur level, like he fought boxing and kickboxing, and I call him Giraffe as well because he's a tall guy. And I said, this guy's stolen your name, bro. You know, his first fight name I gave him, and they actually called it when he went out to fight boxing was Kareem Abdul Giraffe. It changed. It kind of morphed to just be Giraffe, just because he's a tall, lanky guy, man. Anyway,
oh jeez,
you guys might have to fight one day for the title of King Giraffe or something. I don't know. Hey,
Battle
bro,
of the Serengeti.
That's it. Hey, I've got a few sort of more general questions. Like, why do you fight, man? Like, what's the reasoning behind it for you? Deep question.
Ooh. Yeah, over lockdown, I've thought about this a lot because I was like, man, I could be at home, like I could be in Sydney with my mates chilling on the beach. But no, why I fight would be something different. Just like it's a way to earn a living and make a career. Like as you can see now with how much money goes into fighting, and it's because I enjoy it. So as the old saying goes, if you work a job you love, you never work a day in your life. And I honestly believe it's a legitimate job and like a legitimate sport now, and it's a way to make money. So I love it, and it's going to make me money, and that's why I do it.
So what do you love about it?
I love the fact that I just put on a shirt and tracksuit pants in the morning. I don't have to put on a tie. I don't have to put on a high-vis vest. I basically go into my workplace and I talk shit for like 8 hours a day, walk around barefoot, and just get sweaty with the boys. Yeah.
So we can narrow that down to just like you like getting sweaty with the boys every day. All right, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Just joking. No, it sounds great, man. And we talked about styles, but how would you describe your own style of fighting?
It's definitely developed a lot in like these last 3 years I've been at CKB. If you asked me this before I came over to CKB, I would tell you that I'm a grappler. If you ask some of my teammates at the gym, they would probably say I'm a grappler, but that's just because everyone's so high level at striking. I have to take them down, otherwise I'm getting chewed up. But like now myself, I would just say I'm an all-rounder. Like I honestly believe that my striking is caught up to my grappling now, and I can grapple offensively, defensively, top, bottom. I can strike going forwards. I can strike going backwards. I can pot shot. I can brawl, pocket, long range, either. So I just say an MMA fighter is like the most honest answer I can give you.
No, that's good, man. It's good to be that way. If that's what you're tracking towards, that's the way you want to be, right? Is an all-rounder, to be able to handle any situation, and also to be able to adapt to whatever's happening in there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, what would you say your strengths are then, like amongst all those skills?
My strengths, I would say the strongest I feel in a fight, or like the most confident I feel in a fight, is when I'm on top. I'd say ground and pound. Yeah, I've trained with a lot of people who are very good at ground and pound, and I've picked up a lot of things for them, and I feel like I've carried that over quite well, and just kind of like, along with all like the jiu-jitsu and the no-gi and the folk style wrestling, I've kind of blended it quite well together to have like a good, strong top game.
I watched one of your fights. I can't remember the guy's name. It was like looked like some type of Pacific Islander short guy with a bit of a ponytail, and I think you finished him with ground and pound, wasn't it? Or did you just ground and pound him somewhat in the fight? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, that was on the Mokhtarian Brothers show. That was one of my amateur fights. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, that was ground and pound.
Yeah, pretty strong in that fight, man. Hey, so what's your current training? You mentioned that you got a pretty thick schedule. What are you doing like these days? Did you take things off to be training more stand-up, or are you still continuing to kick along with your MMA skills to keep sharp in that area?
So for King in the Ring, I still kept the normal MMA training schedule, and I just built all my kickboxing in around that. So I was just adding on top of it, and it was quite a hectic schedule, but I knew that I could handle it. Like I'm still quite young, and as long as I recovered properly, I was fine. So we're doing the pretty standard double days with the conditioning and the extra pad work or the extra bag work in there, along with the grappling as well.
Yeah, man. And just I usually ask people, like, things have changed along the way with MMA. People doing a lot of extra parts, like looking more into detail about those 1% things that they can improve from, rest and recovery to like, strength and conditioning and diet and whatnot. What sort of things do you pay attention to in that? I did see you wearing a Geordie fight dietitian jacket or something in one of your interviews. Do you deal with Geordie as well?
Yep. Geordie has been big help. I've been using him to help for kind of like the last 3 weeks of a training camp when I need to get my weight down. But probably I'd say diet is the biggest thing that I've found has helped with my recovery, like weighing my food out, eating the right foods. I'm 27 now. I'm not 18, 19 anymore. I can't just eat cheeseburgers and make weight. I got to actually get some fiber and some nutrients in my diet, and I found that that's helped the most as well. Yeah, just paying attention to what I eat and eating the right foods at the right time and the right amounts. Yeah.
I also see the guys working a bit with Dave Wood. Have you done any work with him at all?
I have. I've worked with Dave. I haven't done it as regularly as much as I would like to, just simply because I didn't have the time, and he was also quite busy as well. But he's helped me a lot with the breathing and the recovery, and kind of like changing from sympathetic over to parasympathetic nervous system after training, which is, if people haven't looked into it, it's definitely worth having a look into because it helps a lot.
Yeah, great stuff. I think I've mentioned before that I haven't seen anyone go into detail as much or have as much knowledge on the sort of breathing and how you can use that to help your game, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. How do you prepare for your fights psychologically, man? Like, you know, coming up to fighting these killers, how do you settle yourself and make sure that you're okay? Is it something using your breathing, like someone Dave teaches people to be, you know, comfortable in uncomfortable situations, or have you got your own sort of style, visualization, etc. to use?
I just rely on my training. Like not rely on my training, but I think back to all the training I've done. And knowing that I've done the training, I've done it properly, I've done it to my full capacity. I've trained with the best, obviously, the #1 middleweight in the world, you know, 7 other guys in the UFC in the gym. And that's also something I kind of always fallen back on before I came over to the gym, like training with guys such as like Richie Walsh, who's been in the UFC, guys like Rob Wilkinson, who've been in the UFC, and like a lot of other high level boxers and Brazilian jiu-jitsu grapplers as well back in Sydney. And I just remember that I've done all the training with them, and like anything that they've like done or anything my opponent's going to do to me, surely like these guys haven't already done to me.
Yeah, man, that's like a common theme that comes through some of the top achievers that I've talked to. Guys like Sam Greco, as an example. Sam said exactly that you know, psychological strength can come through the fact that you've left no stone unturned, that you've trained as hard as you can and you're as ready as you can be, you know, and that's the key for him. And it's the key for a lot of guys. I think that if they haven't got any doubts because they've known they've done everything they can do, then they're going to go in there strong, right? It's kind of makes sense here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've seen people just absolutely fall apart in the back because I know that they haven't done the training, and they know they haven't done the training. And I think at like an hour or half an hour before the fight, it just kind of hits them, and then they've already lost. So I've always made sure that I don't want to be that guy.
It's a daunting thing, man, and I think that's why every person who competes in any of these combat sports, you know, I think that they deserve some sort of respect, because it's very daunting going out to compete in front of a lot of people with someone else that's trained to a reasonably high level in their respective martial arts. So it's very daunting and very it needs some sort of glory for you guys, especially you guys at the higher levels competing. You know, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Man, so you mentioned that you want to stick with the middleweight division, light heavyweight. There's a few monsters up there, so you'd like to stick with that middleweight sort of division. If you look at the UFC now, what sort of guys would you like to fight if you had the opportunity?
Khamzat Chimaev. He's got awesome grappling, but I'm like, is it really that good? Like, I don't know. People were saying like Derek Brunson's going to take Israel down. Who else is? Yoel Romero is just going to go in there and blow Israel out of the water and just like rape him on the ground. And I'm like, well, I do all the same grappling training that Israel does, and like Khamzat is meant to be a real good grappler. So I want to see what his grappling is like. Let's see if he can take me down. Let's see if I can take him down. Yeah. So that's a guy I would like to fight, even though I know he's a welterweight, but I think he came out like a couple of days ago saying he wants to be a triple champion or something ridiculous like that.
Now, he's been talking about going up and down a few divisions for ages, right? And he's on this massive trajectory without really fighting. Like, he's obviously doing very well. He's obviously highly skilled and strong. I thought he did very well against, is it Zhang Liang or something, the Leech?
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing because I didn't expect it to go down that easily because he's quite a strong fighter. So he's on a good trajectory, but, you know, a bit of modesty might help, but I guess he's going to make his numbers, earn some more dollars. Who knows?
Yeah. He's definitely one to watch out for. He's quite young as well. I think he's 28. So who knows? Maybe when I get in there and I work my way up, he might be up the top there. One day we might cross paths.
That'd be awesome, man. That'd be awesome. So obviously you're looking to have a busy 2022. You've had your King of the Ring win. You're fighting on Cage Muay Thai. What's the next plans for the year?
when the borders open up, I want to try and maybe get on Eternal. I know Eugene's over there. He's going to set up a chat, try and get a few of us girls and boys from CKB over there, take a big group of us over. And winning the Eternal middleweight belt would be another really good tick or achievement to add to my resume. And it's I think it will be quite hard to deny me a shot on the UFC or one of the other big overseas promotions if I get that Eternal middleweight belt.
And you look at
the end of the year, I want to try and get that belt.
And when you look at you're looking at UFC as like a final goal, but you also mentioned some other major organizations might be on the horizon if they come up. What sort of shows would you be looking at in a secondary respect to the UFC?
The UFC is, as you said, the main goal. But if it's going to take a little bit longer to get there, I wouldn't mind having a crack on some of the shows like Bellator, or go over to the PFL, have a crack on the PFL as well. Or even some of the ones over in the Middle East, such as like UAE Warriors, or I think that's what the one, or Brave. Hamzat came from Brave as well. So yeah, there's another,
Sounds good. Okay, man. Well, I've hit the end of the time and the end of the questions that I wanted to ask you. It's been a good chat, man. I appreciate your time, and really looking forward to seeing you progress, man. We obviously have got a lot of potential, and hope we can see you up in the big shows later. But for now, looking forward to seeing you over in Australia, hopefully on Eternal. They got a show in April, I think. Colby said he's matched up in April. So hopefully they can get you something over there soon, and hopefully you can breeze through this fight with a Viking. What's his name? Connor Woodman in your next fight. Hopefully you can just pop him and finish and not come out too damaged and be ready for a fight in April.
That would be the dream. That'd be perfect.
Be good, man. All right, man. Thanks so much for your time. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to keep in touch when you have fights coming up after your fights, just to see how things are going with you, if that's all right.
Sounds great. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, bro.